Bird! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Baim, and you know what show it is, and I don't have to say it, do I? Or should I? You also know who my sponsors are. Like the title sponsor of this show is OnX Hunt. And I told Ben the other day when we talked and we did the podcast last week, he told me about a new layer coming up. Now, not the one that he mentioned on the podcast, the new layer for OnX Hunt. It's called On X-Ray. Yeah, pretty soon you're going to be able to just turn it on and it's going to show you the birds in the field. I mean, honestly, if they made hunting any easier, that might as well be their next layer, honest to God. Gunner Kennels, they couldn't improve. Now, Onyx always comes up with a way to improve things. Gunner Kennels cannot, because when they made it the best, they made it the strongest, they made a lifetime warranty on it. That transportation kennel is the finest kennel you could ever put your dog in. Along with their food bowl, food crate, bumpers, everything they come out with is well thought out and well engineered. I mean, like Garmin, talk about engineering. I mean, they put people on the moon, don't they? We don't go to the moon anymore, but we go to the space station with Garmin. Why wouldn't you trust it to go around your dog's neck for a hunt? I don't know. I would. I do. I use the 550 Plus, and it is my favorite unit. If you're a gadget and you like data and all that other stuff, sure, you can get the Alpha Series. Go ahead. That's fine. You'll be fancy schmancy. I like the 550 Plus patched up with the Instinct watch, and there is not a better combination out there for running your dog and finding birds. As long as you got your dog in a gunner kennel and you're using OnX Hunt. I mean, simple. It's very simple. It's kind of like everything tied in. You want to have your Canine athlete with you. You want to have your Hydrate and Recover, your Canine Pro, your new dog, whatever your dog needs for a supplement, it's right there. You pack that up. You pack up your Mossberg shotgun. I'm going to bring my 410 this year. I said I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to do it on prairie birds. But you know what? Early prairie birds, I think I'm good enough. I'm going to use that 410 unless I fail, unless I start missing birds and I think I didn't have enough oomph, then I'll just go to like my SA20 or I'll go back to one of my nice old side-by-sides that I keep in storage. But I am bringing the 410 from Mossberg out there. It is going to be a hoot. I'm going to load it full, both barrels being full. I'm going to load it with Boss shot shells. I am going to have if you're using Boss shot shells, you're going to have the finest non-tox shell you can have, because copper-plated bismuth is the best. And if you want to even, and just like all my other sponsors, they come up with new things, new layers, new Garmin, Boss came up with the buffered shot. The buffered shot, that's even improving your pattern. So if I can get buffered in 410, I got it made. I got it made almost as good as my dogs do when it comes to dinner time, because they get Purina Pro Plan, and I want them to have the best. Way before Purina was ever a sponsor of this show, I've been feeding Purina since I think the first time I went to a NAVDA test, and that was a long time ago. But I actually think, I was feeding Purina. I remember I was feeding Purina. What was the name of that one? Way back in the day. I think it was called High Pro. Yeah. So they've been feeding all my dogs their entire life. I totally trust them. Walton's has been taking care of my kitchen needs for, the last 5 years. Not just the spices, because the spices are spices. They're great, but the other stuff they have. They just sent us the vacuum sealer. It's the chamber version, though. And they've got a setting on there that's for marinating. And we just got some salmon from Aldi's. Aldi's has these pre-marinated salmon on planks. So we got that one day. And then when we got the chamber sealer, I told my wife, I said, "Why? We don't need to buy the pre-marinated ones. We'll get the salmon. We'll put it in the marinade vacuum, whatever it's called. I'm not re-recording this one. No. We put it in the chamber sealer and set it for marinate. And we did it the other day, and it was just as good as the pre-done. And I'd rather do it with Walton spices and a Walton's chamber sealer. So there, Marshwear. I look like a freaking Marshwear walking commercial. And not only am I wearing their shorts and their shirt right now, I'm wearing their underwear. I told you I had everything except an underwear sponsor. You know, Mindle Boots is not a sponsor, but they send me socks and boots. Pike Gear used to keep me full of hunting clothes. Now Marshwear keeps me full of every clothes: hunting clothes, camp clothes, shorts, swimwear, fishing wear. They're unbelievable. They've got and they got a great promo for all listeners. HTP15, you can get 15% off a Marshwear purchase. But if you're a Patreon patron, you'll get a lot more actually. I won't say how much. I'm not allowed to say how much. Oh, I did forget to tell you that Walton's. Anybody, again, every general listener who didn't skip this intro, HDP10 gets you 10% off your Walton's order. And again, Walton's has a patron discount code. Can't tell you what that is because you'd have to be a patron to find out. I wish I could get 4-Wheel Camper to send me a code because I have got more people. I told you this last week. It's camping season here in Michigan. Everybody in the world's up here at their cabin or a campsite or somewhere on a national forest. I literally have to throw extra time in my day to talk to people about it when they see this on the back of my truck. If you haven't seen it, go to 4-Wheel Camper, look at the Model M, and picture what you could turn that into on the inside for your traveling wing shooting. It's going to get me everywhere I'm going, everything I've got, all my sponsors, everything will be inside that Model M. My dogs, my Marshwear, my Walton spices, because I probably won't bring a chamber sealer. I should, but my wife will get mad. My Purina Pro Plan will be in there. It'll be in a Gunner food crate. My Boss shot shells will be in there. My Mossberg shotguns will be in there. Canine Athlete will be in there. My Garmin will be in there. And I can charge all my Garmin stuff up in the back of the camper because I got like a battery, lithium battery pack that goes up to solar panels. And so I could be remote and I could keep all my Garmin's charged up and my phone charged up. That's one thing. Picture yourself in this 4-Wheel Camper. And then my W Supply. Of course, W Supply is not in my camper, but it's there on my phone. If I need something, if something breaks, they will take care of you. They will get something to you as fast as humanly possible if you're on a hunting trip. That's another reason you want to go to W for your stuff. I know of people that have had things go wrong. They got them because they're a repeat customer. They got them their unit. They got it to them as fast as possible. Their hunting trip went on without a problem, and then they worried about bringing it back later. That's what kind of people run DU Supply. My Gunner Kennel will be in there, and Onyx will be on my dashboard. So from the wheels of my Dodge to the top of my 4-Wheel Camper, I'm ready to go. That's it. Hey, we got some new stuff coming out with Patreon. I'm gonna be getting It's a long story. I'll save it for the next intro. This one's already 8 minutes, and God knows that's plenty. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Did you forget Arxis boots? No, I didn't forget Arxis boots. That is also going to be. I'm going to have 2 pair by then. Jack's going to get me another pair. I got the mid calf, the Jofer, and I am going to get. I forget what the name of it is. I'm a boot fanatic. Go to ArxisUSA.com. Check out the Arxis boots. If you need a rubber boot, and I mean, there's only a couple of real rubber boots out there. Okay, and they're not manufactured in this country, and they're not even sold in this country except through mail order. You can't find them, but you'll find the Arxis line at ArxisUSA.com. You're going to end up talking to Jack Butler. Tell him I sent you. He'll know I sent you because you're a bird hunter. And you are going to enjoy the world's finest rubber boot. There. I guess that's not 8 minutes now. It's 9 minutes and 13 seconds. My apologies. I love you guys. I love you girls. Enjoy this episode with Jennifer. I enjoyed the conversation immensely. All right. Jennifer Broome, how the heck are you?
Ron, I'm Awesome. How are you?
Oh, I couldn't be, I'm retired, I'm inspired. I'm reading a book recently named Mastering Canine Communication, and it turned out to be written by you.
Imagine that.
How did I, it showed up in the mail with a nice little note to me, and I'm like, "Oh, that's Jennifer. That's my friend Jennifer that I was up in the UP with last year." No, I knew the book was coming. Um, I know you were on the podcast. We did a podcast after we hunted up in the UP too, didn't we?
We did.
But I don't think this really, I think you might have alluded to this. So give people that are listening an idea about this book or what part of I know because we've talked, it's kind of part of a bigger book, but
It is.
give us an idea what this, and the subtitle is The Power of the Quiet Cue. And we know dogs don't need our English, right?
Yeah.
They don't need words to train. And I think if somebody took anything away from it, like, oh, I don't have to, I should do the old trainer thing and put duct tape over my mouth while I train my dog. But
Less is more. Yeah.
give us the how and the why and why I'm reading this book or why I read this
Sure.
book now.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me back. I love hanging out with you, spending time with you and chatting with you. And you're a lot of fun and I'm very grateful. So thank you very much. So yeah, I alluded to this book when we were out hunting back in October. And the interesting thing about this book is while it came out first, it was born from a master book that is actually coming out, I believe, next week or the following week. And that one is called Lead, Don't Follow, The Human Guide to the Puppy Mind. And I knew over the years, I'm almost 30 years into training dogs for people as a professional trainer. And my content, my decision to write a book was based on being so repetitive with customers when they call. Sometimes I feel like a broken record of what they needed to hear.
Yeah.
And my goal with the Lead Don't Follow book was basically how, when, where, why to get a puppy. And maybe you shouldn't get a puppy at all.
Well, some
and
people do need to hear that.
yeah. And if two German short hair breeders, turned you away because you think a short hair is a sexy looking dog and you'd like to get one because you love the look of mine, well, it's because ours are purpose bred and we're working them to what they were born and bred to do. That's why the dogs are so good. And they don't really make necessarily the great apartment dogs and the great, so that book is really trying to help people find the best dog for them. And whether you meet a tractor trailer on the side of the road because you like to play a game of roulette and you want to be surprised with the dog that they hand you, or you go to a rescue, or you go to a foster, or you go to a backyard breeder, or my favorite, I help get you to a phenomenal breeder, a really great dog breeder.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to help people meet them where they're at with their puppy, and then take them through the processes of starting with puppy, everything from crate training through about the first year. Well, when I got to chapter 7 in the book, which started getting to when a pup's 6 months of age and you're starting its general obedience, because everything prior to me is about molding and shaping and teaching a puppy to learn, is at that 6-month marker. When I started the leash training communication with the overlay into the e-collar conditioning by, say, month 7 or within about a month's time of leash training, I thought, I can't make this a chapter. Like, this is a book in itself.
Yeah.
And that's how this book was born. So this book is 99 pages, and it's specifically about the Wonderlead leash tool and point of contact training with a leash to e-collar overlay. And the nice thing about this is people who maybe already have a 6-year-old dog that pulls, they can read this and use the information to get that 6-year-old dog to stop pulling.
Yeah, and understand why.
Right.
They will, if they read it, they'll understand, like, oh yeah, that's not what I did, right? And you and I've talked, in the past a lot, and I think you said it was like we could both say the same thing in a different sentence. And the one thing I tell people that call me up for help, and I'm not a trainer, but I've trained dogs to high level, so I know enough about it to help, is your book makes it clear without using my sentence, quit naming something before you see something, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Like if there was a takeaway from that, I mean, how many people we see the dogs pulling, they're pulling back. The dogs love this opposition reflex, right?
Yeah.
And as they're pulling the dog back like a wheelbarrow up a hill, they're saying heel, heel, heel. And they're naming pulling is what
Yes.
they're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you, like you said, the leash around the neck is like so important. And this book really emphasizes it a lot. And I like that.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think one of the greatest things that just keeps getting to be an epiphany for me on a weekly basis when I talk to people, um, people are very, when do you name the command, or why aren't you talking? And even in the seminars, it's all like, okay, which commands did you teach my dog? And that, we'll train someone's dog for 6 weeks. And the first question is, which commands?
Right.
Well, the big picture here that to me makes so much sense is that if I, Jennifer Broome, train your dog, and repetition is the mastery of all skill. And dog training is all about patience, persistence, and repetition. So if I'm teaching your Labrador Retriever puppy how to sit, verbal, and they learn from the muscle memory repetition, they're also learning my voice, my cadence, my intonation, my pitch, and that becomes the memory for the dog.
Right.
Now the owner comes in, and this is exactly what they do. Sit, 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 sit. And I'm like, that suddenly becomes a new language for them. So every human being,
they get confused then.
They totally get confused. And it's interesting because I want to relate this to the part of the fetch training process that we do so much with retriever trainers, where with dogs retrieving, that there's 2 hiccups that can often happen in the fetch training process. So shelve that for a minute, because this to me is related to this muscle memory, that if it's a specific person or trainer training a dog and the dog memorizes that person's tone in conjunction with what they're training, the dog really then memorizes the command from that person, and then it becomes confusing. It's almost like a different language when a kid says it or when dad says it or whatever.
Right.
Whereas touch is universal.
Right.
So if we can teach point of contact touch on the neck to mean follow the feel of the touch.
Yeah.
And then we like to say, when you love the action, name it. And Ron, you can name it whatever you want.
Right.
And when we do we do 6-week courses, and then there's a graduation at the end of the 6 weeks. And I will say to people, here's the skills your dog learned. Go with you, be still, come to you, go somewhere, walk with you, all by touch communication. And I say, then at week 5, we name it: heel, sit, go to bed, here, or come.
Or kennel, whatever it is. Yeah.
So I no sooner hand a dog to someone and they're going, stop, walk. And I'm like, where did I just say that was one of the commands? Yet, because they overlay it with the touch, the dog miraculously instantly goes, okay, this is Susie. And Susie, when she point of contact touches me to walk and she says walk, I understand what it means.
Right. Right.
So that's the universal language of the quiet cue. It's teaching them to navigate a cue as a universal language. And then whatever human decides to go on with that, they can name it whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, the analogies, it could be 100 things in life. If I went to Germany and a traffic cop was standing in the intersection, the old school whistle and stop, I understand that.
Yes.
But if I go to Germany and it's all verbal, I don't understand German.
Exactly.
And if you teach that dog, like you say in the book, with your body position, your demeanor, another person can copy that. They can't copy your voice, but they can copy the touch method, the cue. We talked a bit about the Upland Institute that Justin and I did, and you were very complimentary, and I appreciate that. And he is such a proponent of I wouldn't say not the Wonder Lead. He uses a version of the Wonder Lead. It's
Hmm.
a slip collar, same thing. And a dog, point of contact on that dog's neck. When he's little, he's got a little check cord on him. When he's a little bigger, he's got a little bigger check cord. I'm saying this a little tongue in cheek. Justin doesn't take a check cord off a dog until he goes hunting with it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it's, but it's such a reminder to that dog. Everything's coming through there,
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and if you read this book, you're gonna see that over, and it's almost like you could almost substitute some of the chapters but that's what dogs need. You want to teach them heel, you could teach them trot, you could
Mhm.
teach them gallop. If you could gallop as fast as the dog, you could teach them all that with that collar and that point of contact.
Yeah. And even, when we got a little baby puppy, we've got an 8-week-old puppy, how do you ultimately first teach it to sit? Not by staring at it, cocking your head and saying sit, sit, sit 500 times and hopefully it sits, right? And
Right,
that's unfortunately what a lot of traditional treat training is: sit, 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 sit. And they finally do the action and you give them a cookie, which is really not the way to food train and drive. It's more of take the cookie, take the food, raise it up to raise their head, and
right,
then potentially touch at their butt, which sometimes you don't even have to do. But that butt touch is the point of contact. Now, if you didn't even have the food, we've all done, you grab a puppy's collar, you gently raise the collar as you push down on the butt. And I don't even like to push because dogs will move against pressure. I'll give a claw of a hand claw, or just a little pinch, because from the pinch they'll move away from pressure. So
right.
those are 2 points of contact. Those are point of contact on the neck, on the butt. Get a puppy to stand. It's point of contact, neck, hand under the belly.
And then
So
pretty soon the puppy's doing that, and then you can name it.
then you name it. You name it when you love the action. You don't keep asking and hoping and praying that they understand the language and they do the action, because really, to me, you're teaching them to ignore the first 18 sits that you say, and then on the 19th, now you have a party, you get really excited, and usually when you have a party and you get excited, when they finally sit, they get up.
Yeah,
So I'm like, where was the lesson there?
right. It's like you got to teach the dog to, like you said, to teach himself, but
Yes.
we're guiding it along the process.
Mm-hmm.
Give a little background. You give Rick Smith a lot of credit in the Smith family, with the Wonder Lead, and Rick wrote a nice forward in the book. How did you end up meeting? I don't want to say. I think most of my listeners would know the name. A lot of them would maybe have bumped into him, saw him at Pheasant Fest, but there's only a couple families out there that are that well known. How did you run into Rick Smith, or were you just the person who signed up for a seminar and had no idea who he was or what he was? Because it's definitely a big part of your life and your training.
It is. I went to a Rick Smith seminar like 20 years ago at Lion Country Supply, and I drove out there to Lion Country Supply. There's a camp. I can barely remember I remember a couple things about it. I remember, like, we stayed at like this camp. I went with 2 other people. I remember he had this lemon and white English pointer on a woe post, and she reared up and flopped on her side, and I swore she was dead because she was that good of an actor, and she'd be darned if she was going to stand up. I remember watching him try to fetch train a dog with like the craziest, and I had to look away, and I was like, that's so wrong. And but I remembered being introduced to bird dogs because I was new to bird dogs. I was a retriever person, but I really wanted to learn. And this family is so synonymous with dog training in general. And so that was my beginnings of meeting Tim. And I mean, I loved 95% of his content. I was a little freaked out by some of the stuff. And it
30
was,
years ago, that would have been a little harder handed, probably just a touch.
you're totally right. His
Yeah.
fetch was like grab a nail on a PVC pipe, put it on the dog's ear till it screamed, and then shove something in its mouth. And I was like, wow, there's other, and even now I'm so different with my fetch training process of where that's transitioned to. Um, so, um, so that was my first introduction to Rick and the Wonder Lead. And then I started using the Wonder Lead from there. And, gosh, it's a tool that you really do have to practice and know how to use, because I have to say, honestly, more often than not, I see it not used correctly.
Right.
I just do. I see people holding it tight. I see people holding tight with constant pressure.
Right.
Whereas it really, there's way better ways to utilize the Wonder Lead and to teach a dog to really respect the Wonder Lead. So, it was about 15 years ago, and it's in the book, that I reached out to Rick because I talk about societal changes, how kids stopped respecting teachers and police officers. They just film a police officer now and be like, go ahead, what are you going to do to me?
Right.
And I was seeing it in dogs.
Yeah.
We were getting dogs that used to be good gun, hunting dogs for people or whatever. And like dogs were landing more bites on us than ever. And it seemed like day one was just trying to get an ID collar on a dog, and they're trying to come after you. So
Right.
the interesting thing is Rick shared with me that he had heard it from Ronnie, and he was seeing it too. So that sort of began our relationship even more so. And he started to really mentor me because I was reaching out, and then I had him out, I think about 12 years ago, to Quinnebog Kennels for our first clinic. And from there, we just really blossomed into,
Yeah.
a friendship and a trainer relationship.
Yeah. They've, I went down and interviewed him in Virginia a few years ago. And one of the things I love, this is just a sidebar story. I get to his house in Virginia. I'm navigating there through Waze or some of the whatever navigator I had on my phone. And I pull in this nice long driveway and I pull up to a house and the address says, it doesn't say welcome to, doesn't say welcome to Smith World
Yeah.
and I don't see any dog kennels, right? I don't, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm here. The navigator says I'm at the right address. I got to knock on the door. And sure enough, Rick answers the door, and I met him before at Pheasant Fest. And so I knew it was him. And after walking into his office and looking at all the memorabilia, everybody loves a little member. You have it behind you and I have it
I
behind
do.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I finally had the courage to ask him. I said, so you don't have any dogs here? He goes, oh yeah, they're about a quarter mile away down the hill. I don't want to hear dogs all
I
day.
know.
And
Yeah.
I was expecting to have Brittany's jumping on my lap. But what I was going to tie that into is when we mentioned about that kind of trained retrieve back in the day, really only professionals were doing it to dogs that were in competition. They were kind of dogs that were not built for it, but that could handle it a little better.
Yeah.
And I like you said, people and dogs are softer now, and it's probably our fault in both cases. So you do have to massage it a little bit,
You do. Yep. And that's one of the biggest things I think I've added when Rick comes to a seminar is as you said, I massage it a little bit, because at this point, I can't even tell you how many of his seminars I've attended, whether I've hosted multiple times or I've gone to his different seminars. And as a clinician, every single time you go to a seminar, no matter who the instructor, you're always going to hear different things. It's organic based on who's there, what the questions are, what the dogs are. So there's so much to learn. And what I started finding is sometimes I'd get this incredible comprehensive seminar that went like A, B, C, D, E. And then it started to get sometimes where it would jump from A to D. And I'm there going like, when it's at my facility, I'm like going, okay, time out for a minute. Rick jumped ahead to E. Let me go back and just clarify for everybody. And I was able to do that because I had the knowledge of spending so much time with him, of things that his brain works so incredibly, and he can jump to the next step when sometimes people need to hear that B, C, D, E, know? Yeah.
People need to hear a lot of BC. They need a lot of BC.
I had a similar experience with Rick too, because when my husband Jason and I would trek our horses and dogs back from Connecticut to Florida, we stopped at his place one year to stay over in Virginia on the way home. And I had two horses. He's a beautiful piece of property. And same thing, Brittany's are down in the hill in the kennel.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was he had two min pins in his house, and they were bastards. They were, and his furniture was all flipped up so the dogs wouldn't jump up like on the bar stools and stuff like that. And they were both rescues, and they saved those dogs' lives, and it was hysterical. But those dogs like ruled the roost.
That does not fit the picture of what I would think. Right. Exactly.
It was great. But I'm going back to, I do mention the Smith family in here quite a bit because I have a lot of respect for their system. I have, I'm in my barn here. I have Delmar spurs. I have Rick's competition whistle. I have so much love and admiration for the family and what they've done for dog training. But being able to talk to Delmar and talk to Rick, and Rick even brings me back because he edited this whole book with me, and he'd bring me back with the history. He even mailed me a photograph of his grandfather holding two competition bulls, like on a leash, and he was kneeled down, and these two competition bulls were behind him. And again, he said, I think it was from 1983, is where Delmar, when they were working on the King Ranch, saw the pig and strings that they were using for the animals and how it was a pressure release system. And the interesting thing about the Wonder Lead, people don't even understand, because people will try to go make their own or buy their own. A pig and string has even more release factor for it. So when you tie a cattle by the feet, you see in the rodeos and stuff, and they can tighten it, it will instantly release. Rick and Delmar were explaining to me that they worked on the composition of the Wonder Lead, and it doesn't quite have that much elastic or quick action as a true pig and string. They have some number or secret code to it, whatever, makeup, that it works more effectively on a dog versus cattle feed or something like that.
Right.
And Rick also, we got quoted right in the book. He's like, we didn't come up with this silent command system. Like, we didn't come up with being quiet. The people before us did it. The people before us did it. They said, just be quiet, training animals. Stop being human.
Stop
being so damn human.
Right.
And when the whole less is more, it is so true. The less you talk, the more you can actually study an animal.
Yeah. One of the things I highlighted, and I don't think I've ever conveyed this to people when I'm trying to solve a quick question on the phone or anything. And you have a piece in here about, you said, have you ever truly studied your dog's body language to observe that your dog is acknowledging your communication? I mean, that's a sentence.
Yeah.
But I mean, that alone, I don't know what percent of people have tried to study their dog's body language. I've been lucky as a versatile hunting dog judge. So I don't have that much training experience except with my own dogs, but I've got to observe a whole lot of dogs that were trained by people and pros and first timers. And it's amazing. I could read their body language better than the owner can.
Sure. Sure.
And say that dog that comes up to the water, you see him look away. You see him not make eye contact. You see him staring off at the distance, or
he's blinking the water.
Yeah, he's basically.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going in there.
He says, I don't know what you're going to do here, but I have no intention on listening to you.
I'm dipping a toe in.
And then the worst one is probably with puppies, but I'm more forgiving with puppies. Is you get a puppy, we're trying to get him just to do two short little swims, 10, 15 feet, turn around, come back with a bumper. They don't even have to bring the bumper back. We just use the bumper to entice them, right? We just want to say on their scorecard, the dog's not afraid of water, basically.
Right.
And you get that dog, and I'm sure you've seen it, Jennifer, it starts licking the water like it hasn't had a drink in a week. Right? The owner doesn't even notice it.
Yeah.
And then the owner's talking to it, and the dog's like, I've been trying to tell you that I'm not going in. But I like the fact that you put that in there. That is a takeaway that people got. It's hard to learn, but I think I shouldn't say it's hard to learn. You just have to focus on it. Spend that time not just being your dog's best friend, but being your dog's teacher. And you bring him up onto a training table. Is he looking all over the place? Is he even focused on you?
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, you talk about handling from birth. People have been talking about this for years, and I'm glad you have it in the book. That stuff you do with a puppy when they're little. Now, we don't always get a puppy at 8 or 10 or 12 weeks old, but the ones that are handled right and touched by people and digging with their paws and everything, it's amazing how that dog is a lot easier to train.
Yeah. It's so true, Ron. We were helping a new customer yesterday. Actually, she's a returning customer whose older dogs passed on, and she got a new rescue pup. And she didn't even want to come to one of my seminars because she said, I don't think this puppy can handle it. And I don't know that the puppy was 3 or 4 months of age. one of my trainers was doing the seminar, the lesson. I just came out to see it. This puppy was so fearful, and this woman was an experienced dog person. You could just see the fear in its eyes, and you just think, what did somebody do to this puppy? And again, I want to make it clear, I love purpose-bred dogs. Like, I always want purpose-bred dogs. I want my sporting dogs. I want to fulfill a dog's niche and have dogs, be active and sporting with me versus the dog that just lays around and, the classic, say, family pet. So I love sporting and purpose-bred dogs.
But human companion dogs are your backbone too, and your bread and butter too.
We train a lot of human companion dogs. But so I also want to let people know, like, I'm an advocate of, if you just want a companion dog, great, go rescue a dog. The problem is, if you are not experienced, you could go down a rabbit hole of emotions with a dog that it doesn't need your empathy. It doesn't need you to feel bad that it was born under a porch down south somewhere and got shipped up with 80 other dogs and handed to you. If anything, that dog usually needs you to be a stronger leader because it's just scared to death. Yeah. Now, Rick talks about this. He helped me within the book. Like, we both believe a lot of those dogs can come around and end up living fulfilled lives. Mm-hmm. But, you've whelp litters of puppies. I whelp litters. I have a woman right now that I was looking to get a lab puppy for a client. And she followed all along on Facebook these her puppies, and she's up in Michigan and she's on the water. I would love to have gotten a puppy from her based on every single day of what she did with those puppies over the course of 8 weeks. Yeah. They had been there, seen it, families, children, the water, like, they got to experience so much. And that's what I try to do with my own puppies when I breed puppies. Like, that when I hand you a puppy, it's a little bit been there, done that, as far as nails done, baths, seen birds, gone for pack hikes, walked across streams. And the sad thing is the truth is that almost all rescue dogs have been abused or neglected in some way. They just have.
And even if it's like, we think of abuse like being beaten, but abuse comes in a lot of forms.
Yes.
And neglect is an abuse. And neglect can be just being raised off in the corner and being like, oh, we got to get rid of these dogs. Like, those dogs have not had not that they haven't had any human contact. It's that they haven't had anything but their mother to rely on.
Yeah.
And then they're all just off into the world. Yeah. It's scary. And I know several family friends, and I'm sure hundreds that, have a
wrong dog, wrong situation, not safe for the kids. The dog ends up ruling the family, and it's so sad because it's not the dog's fault. And this is where I have the problem with rescue situations, is that these dogs come with a background of they need you in a lot of aspects, much more than a dog that was totally socialized. And people come into it more with empathy, and I just rescued this dog, I want to help it, and then the dog spirals down a path. I see it a whole lot. So I don't know how we got on that. Great. So I was just saying that
about, working with the puppies when they're small.
Yeah.
And I like that was in the book because it's really important. Would you say that, let's say, and this is just let's just say for the rescue crowd, if there's a few of us listening to the Hunting Dog podcast, which I don't know, but would you take, I'm just going to pick a 9-month-old dog. You have no background on. He's had no healing touch. He's had no stacking. He's had no fingernail trims. Would you take a dog like that? And this could be a German Shorthair that you got from somebody that didn't have any manners. Would you start it over as a puppy and put him on his back and start the process? Or is it a little too late at that age?
Yeah, it's too late. I mean, you can get hurt by trying to do that. You can't the thing about, like, say, holding a puppy upside down is that you can actually physically overpower them because we're bigger than them, right? And you can get hurt by a rescue 70-pound or 50-something pound German Shorthair pointer, and they can win, and it can further empower them. I don't come in like a wrecking ball with them by any means. But I mean, I start right out with the patience line, and I'll put them on the patience line, and I'll be like, let the patience line teach you the pressure. Justin had it. You guys had it in your Upland Institute video. Those two Brittany puppies that were on the tie out stakes.
Yeah.
I prefer to put them on shorter. Those puppies were still young and small, but a bigger dog could have effectively hurt itself on a chain. I think your chain was maybe 4 foot long or 5 foot long.
Yeah, I'm
So
not sure how long it was, but I know
yeah,
what you're saying. Yeah.
I would tend to do more of just like an 18 to 20-inch swivel on either end. And hey, if you pull, you feel pressure. If you move into the pressure, if you move into it, you alleviate the pressure yourself. So I tend to do that and let them sort of experience things around without me having to interact. And what they can't fight, freeze, or flight. They just have to be there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's even how we've helped in the gun shy dogs navigate their surroundings and being around, where I'm just like, you're going to get tied out. You're going to be part of a pack. I'm not going to jam anything in your face, but we're going to go off in the distance. We're going to go work dogs. You know, it has been successful in some aspects. Some dogs are so wrecked from that it's not, but it is how I would help a dog that, like you just mentioned.
Yeah. Start out with something like that, which is the dog teaching itself that
Yeah, but
there's nothing I can do right now.
in that, like, so I do though go back and sort of bring them through the puppy stages, because it is about the, like you guys have in your Upland Institute, it's about the calming touch. You are touching them all over. I go right back to, I have a flow sheet for obedience training, and it's desensitization. It is touching them all over, brushing, stuff like that. I go back through that process sort of like sacking out to get them used to handling. But sometimes an older dog will have so much baggage and have so much aversion that you need to get their brains right to work so that they don't lash out and become reactive. If you can get them in a thinking state of mind, then you can start getting somewhere. It all depends on the dog that's in front of me, really does.
Yeah, I would be honestly, that to be the last thing I would be, I think if a dog growled at me, I would be afraid. I've been, out of all the dogs' mouths I examined, if I come up to one after the water, we like to check their coat after the water. If I have a sense of like this dog is freaking out, I won't even do it.
Yeah.
I could put a note on the card that says dog was, not able to be examined. I can't, because
Sure.
I don't want to stress the dog out anymore.
Sure.
But what a joy it is when you get to someone's dog and they just let you take their collar and they let you look in their mouth.
Yeah. And those are all trained responses. Like,
yeah.
it would be so upsetting as a breeder for me if I saw my pups, was aggressive at the water with the judge, or was aggressive with it, because it certainly becomes a reflection of your breeding program. But really, that's a lack of socialization at the owner. And if that owner for the first 8 months of its puppy's life, like, really didn't have people examine it, that's a trainability thing. Even my own German short hair pointer, who's really used to people, they got into the show, they've been in the show circuit for conformation showing this year. And I've shown both of them and they show well with me. Well, a handler went to show one of them and she was being a pill. And when the judge went to examine her, she didn't growl or anything, but she did not want to show her mouth. Like, she had a little meltdown. And I said to the handler, I go, you dig into that dog. That dog knows that. She was giving you a hard time. And then she walked all around the show. She was like, knock it off. And then my pup just stood there and showed her mouth. So there wasn't the aggression, but it was the adversity of like, no, you're not going to do it. And she was trying to get the upper hand.
I'm skipping through a few parts here. And I also like the core actions that the quiet cue focuses on. Walk with me, be still, go away, and recall.
Mm-hmm.
You could get those 4 things down. They already have all the instincts to hunt, right?
Yep.
This doesn't come with the package without us.
Yes. And again, I've adopted this stuff from the teachings that Rick has helped me with. And I had this whole repertoire of stuff that I teach for my Quinnipiac kennels. But it really does come down to any single dog. If they can walk with you, then the companion dog is healing. And the walk with you for a hunting dog simply becomes handling and casting at a distance, whether you're on a horse, whether you're asking a spaniel or a flushing dog to quarter, or you're casting out your pointing dog. It's handling, it's walking with you in your turns.
Yeah.
Stop and be still. Well, it's so important. Again, you're in the Upland Institute with your calming exercises. I love that. I loved that section of that where Justin was working on the touch and touching right down the leg. I mean, we do a bunch of that too. A dog needs to accept being touched all over. We need to examine them. We need to be able to treat them. We need to be able to help them. And like the more wiggly a dog is, the more unstable and wild their mind. So the be still is just that. If I'm walking you and I stop because I want to shake your hand, say hello, take a phone call, get the mail, the dog has the composure to be
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Now, what does that become in the field? Steadiness, right?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And steadiness isn't, the dog is not objecting to steadiness because he understands.
Yeah.
He didn't know it was going to come into play with a bird and a gun later.
Uh-huh.
But he understood, oh, this is time to be calm. And I've been like those dogs, when it comes to steadiness training on them, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's way easier than the dogs that haven't had that. It's so much easier.
Sure.
You know?
And if your dog gets agitated, if you have a retriever by your side that, is a bird is thrown and you can't even put your hand down on it because it's adverse to it. And they will tell you, they will nose bump you. They'll move away from you. They'll give you a dirty look. Yeah. They don't want you to touch them. The same thing with a pointing dog. If you can't even touch your pointing dog just on a bench because they won't accept it calmly. Yeah. Good luck styling them and soothing them and touching them when they're actually on a bird because they take offense to it. So that's the be still action. The come to you, obviously, is your recall command. Right. And then probably one of the greatest things, I mean, I had a neat horse trainer out at my facility about a month and a half ago. He's a local guy. He's done the Mustang makeovers. He's a very talented horse trainer. And I brought him out and I was showing them our Quiet Q Challenge course. And he's like, destination training. We do that with our horses. Like he teaches his horses to sit on a beanbag. He teaches his horses to go to a platform. He's like, animals so understand destination training, going somewhere and being held accountable to be on top of that object. Well, we know that from barrel work. We know that from placeboard work. And for us in our program with our companion dogs and our hunting dogs, we teach our dogs the muscle memory. When they see a coranda bed, because we're a big fan of coranda beds, we use all coranda beds at our kennel and we use it in our training program. Go to the hammock style bed, all 4 feet on it, lie down. So that's now what that entails is so in general, humans provide dogs with affection when they're right with us. You get rewarded when you're with us. This is to seek reward to go to an island. So we send them to the coranda bed. This is for family pets. And one of the things I think I might mention in here, and I'm preaching to customers all the time, is the problem you're having is usually not the problem. It's a symptom of your lack of foundation. Yeah. So if you tell me your dog's jumping in the window and barking at squirrels or barks when somebody knocks at the door, how about stop telling it no, no, no? How about you instruct it what to do, which would be go to bed? Right. How about someone's not go to bed or be still or come to me versus no, no, no. Right. So for the family companion, it's go to bed, go to crate, go to a destination. And then for our field dogs, what is it? It's go quest, it's go fetch the bird, it's go do the retrieve.
Right. I want to pick your brain a little bit. I should have done it off recording, but you talked about I think of it as like an agility course with the coranda. Sure. Are you using like the teeter totters and the A-frames, like some of the agility dogs?
Sure.
As well?
So our course kit's getting more and more on steroids. My husband came up with 4 new obstacles this year alone, and one that's really, really challenging. It's 4 pilings, and they have chains attached to the pile, 4 chains with a like 2x6 that's swinging in between. And it's probably one of the most difficult things now. All that our obstacles are ways to continue furthering partnering with the dog, working on communication and getting resistance. And our ultimate goal is you can fail, but you have to try. So you can
like
step
my
on
mom
that
and
and
me in
fall off.
school.
Yeah, you have to try. You have to try. Now, you said, gosh, you'd be really worried if a dog growled at you. There isn't when I'm in my training process of training dogs for foundation, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't feel a dog's energy. I'm so big and I can feel dogs' energy. I spend so much time studying dogs, working with dogs. I can feel and see the bite a mile coming before it's coming. And it usually is they whip at you for a minute they glare at you with their eyes, they tighten their jaws, their tail goes to a certain spot, they'll bump you with their nose. There's so many big triggers a dog will portray to you that they don't like what's happening, they feel insecure, and the bite becomes the ultimate self-preservation or form of resistance because they don't want to do something, right? As a trainer, I want to help take the bite out of every dog as a form of their resistance when they don't want to. And my dogs, I've had to remove porcupine quills from them. I've had to remove, you too, things.
Yeah.
And even though we're doing something that may hurt them, we want them to stand there and tolerate it. Now we know if they're really, really hurt, they're going to try to bite. So we'll muzzle one of our dogs or whatever.
Right.
But for me, what I love so much about the obstacles there's obstacles in there that some dogs just physically aren't capable of doing, some of the really hard ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say, well, you're going to try it. You're going to try it. And their ultimate fight, freeze, or flight. And why are they doing it? It's not because they're bad dogs. They don't know how to use their body. They're scared. They're confused. They just don't know. But biting is not an option. So I actually am looking for that resistance of a bite. And when I'm doing my quiet cue seminars, I'm like, you think you have a nice dog? I can get almost any one of your dogs to bite me because I'll try to put it in a situation where they don't want to, but I don't want to do that. I want to start with easier obstacles and ask them to try.
Right.
And when I see that resistance, it shows me the dog's threshold. It shows me its trigger. And why is it trying to bite? Is it ticked off? Is it scared? Is it confused? And I want to capture that moment and help it navigate to try something different and not bite.
Right. So you're basically giving them an out,
Yeah.
but you're reading it really early.
Yes. Yeah.
So if I was watching from the side and you said, that dog a minute ago might have tried something, I would have probably said, are you out of your mind, Jennifer?
Oh gosh, yeah.
But you would have picked up on that.
I picked up on it a mile away. And I'll even go just put a figure eight or muzzle a dog this happened last training rounds that our beloved doodles. Doodles have a high level of reactivity. And so they'll whip their head at you really quick. And you know what, Ron? I've gotten hurt real bad on a horse. My worst bite was from a French bulldog. I don't want to get hurt really bad by a dog. And unfortunately, a lot of the dogs today, people will want to send us 80 to 100-pound dogs. 120-pound dog. We trained a Black Russian Terrier last training round that the dog scared the heck out of me. It looked at me and I knew it could kill me.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how this dog turned around. But rather than it just want to lash out and come after me for no reason, I'll be like, wow, I'll give you something to think about. I'll give you something to navigate and use your body at so that it helps to deal with some of the reactivity.
Yeah.
I can read a dog's aversion to wanting to do something. And I really tone my training and my ask in the moment so that the last thing I want to do is escalate it to a bite, but I want to push it to the threshold where. And why do dogs hit this threshold? Because even stairs, for instance, think about how many people you may have encountered that they're like, oh, my dog can't do stairs. So they carry their puppy up and down the stairs. And now the dog just can't do stairs. Now, when we try to get a dog to do it, it does the fight, freeze, or flight. Well, if you really try to dig in, the poor dog thinks it's going to die. So the bite becomes their self-preservation. So that's what I'm so much using the challenge course for is,
you're kind of building their confidence.
I totally am building their confidence, and I'm taking away the aspect of biting is not an option. I know you want to, I know you're scared, but let's come up with a different plan, dog.
What about I heard about, I think a year ago somebody had, was it Sonny Picars, I think is his name.
Yep.
He was talking about I think he was on Travis Frank's podcast. and it sounded like he was describing an agility course. And I've been enamored with it, and I haven't done it yet.
So it's funny because I met Sonny through Rick because Sonny trained with the Huntsmith stuff, and Sonny came out to my facility and saw my entire course, and then
Okay.
he built his course, and then Jordan, who worked for me, he's built his course, and Rick, I know courses have been around for a while, but like literally Rick, when he first came and saw my course, he's like, "What is this crap?" And then when he saw it, then Rick laughed. Then the next thing I know, this is pretty funny. Rick's driving around in his big King Ranch pickup truck with a barrel and a platform, whatever, going to his local seminars because he saw how it became targeted training to help get a resistance. But Rick's even bigger picture, and we talked about this in the book, Rick, we talked about it together, is that the obstacles also gave the humans a definitive task to do with their dog for partnership. So that's the whole bottom line is, as trainers, the other thing that I love about our course is that we probably at this point have 30 obstacles in there. Well, if repetition is the master of all skill, we'll take a dog and in 20 minutes, we can go through the entire course 3 times. That's 90 obstacles that we get to work on resistance, which then we add touch point of contact. You go up to it, you go, you stop before it, you're steady. You cue and you go away onto it. So you go and then you come to me. So I'm able to use every single obstacle for all 4 tasks. They can walk with me over, they can stop and be still, they can go to it, or they can come to me. So 90 times in one session, talk about repetition.
Yeah, instead I'm picking on the people who do this because I was one of them with my first Cocker Spaniel, which I'm gonna wait, I gotta go right off the rails. I know I said it the last time. Your Cocker Spaniel has the best name of any Cocker Spaniel, and it's Betty Cocker.
Betty Cocker.
back to my. So and of course, Jordan Horick. You got a mention of Cato boards, right, in the book, and all I did with that, she was such a retriever. All I did was basically play handball. While I'm sitting right here doing a podcast, and when I gave her up to Jordan, I said, "Jordan, I need a little help with some steadiness on her." And he goes like, "How many tennis balls have you thrown for this dog?" I said, "Just one, about 1 million times." He goes, "Well, that's how I start my dogs with tennis." You know how hard what I'm getting at is instead of just playing fetch retrieves, a couple upside down bushel baskets, a pallet, you don't have to get elaborate, right? That would be so much better to do with your dog on a daily, nightly basis than just throwing 15 bumpers where the dog skids out of control and pulls a hamstring or pulls an ACL. It would mentally, like people say, I don't have enough time for my dog. Your dog would, I'll bet you some of your dogs just, if you were away, they'd break out of the kennel and go on the obstacle course just to have fun with kids in the playground.
They actually do. We'll let the dogs loose, the whole pack of dogs after we train them, we'll let them loose to socialize in the course. And they'll do the course. It's like they get their own blue ribbons by doing the course. And when I would be in there with some certain ones of my German short hairs, like Doozy used to go to the A-frame, which is the tallest thing in there, and stand at the top of the A-frame like queen of the entire course, because now she's like 7 feet off the ground. But with complete joy, the dogs do the obstacles themselves. It's Betty Cocker goes and does the obstacles herself with her little bumper in her mouth and is like, look at me. And it's funny because I've gotten to be good friends with Mike Lardy. You came out and hunted with us last year in Michigan. And I've been going to Mike's seminars, and I learned so much of my retriever stuff from Mike's system, his retriever training system. And I'd be saying for years, I'd be like, do you think there's a correlation between dogs doing a loopy sit, retrievers, that they can't engage their hind end, they can't spin and sit really well? Like, knowing in the horse industry how you're always working on a horse to engage and move their hind end, I see it so much from dogs. And when I try to get dogs to navigate the course, like their front end works, but the hind end, it's such a sticking point for them to actually use their core muscles and lift their legs and use their hind end. Well, it was kind of funny because Mike's been experimenting with the course too at his place with his dog Yana, his German wire hair, Kirsten's dog, his daughter's dog's Munsterlander, Wick, and then he was helping another customer friend of his, and he's making videos. He's like, oh my gosh, they really don't know that about their hind end. They can't use their hind end. And I'm like, I've been saying this for how many years? Because every 6 weeks we get a training class of 20 dogs, and they're like, what hind end? They barely know how to use their hind end.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And you
So
can get them to shake paws with their back legs if you want.
yeah.
Uh,
So
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was going to say a couple. I want to kind of cover a couple more things, and we'll keep
Yeah.
yakking. You give exactly what we do or what Justin does in the Upland Institute. The direction on the leash to change direction, the 180-degree spin around,
Yep.
go the other way. I never saw anybody do it. I'll be honest, I fought that a little bit. I kind of relied on pinch collars when I had a headstrong dog. And I basically, when he heeled next to me in a test, the judges knew that I didn't teach heeling right. Right.
Sure.
Because I was naming it before it was there, and I was just reefing on this dog. And the pinch collar gave me that Herculean advantage. And when I saw Justin do this, just turn and walk 180 degrees, not a word out of your mouth. It's so simple. The dog's like, oh, hey, where you go? Oh, hey, where you going? Pretty soon the dog is keeping up with you because he doesn't want to hit the end of that leash.
He doesn't want to.
And you don't have to say a word.
The funny thing about this is it was back in my old farmhouse, which I bought in 2000. And I'm going to say it was somewhere between 2000 and 2002. There was this trainer. I'll really have to dig deep to find his name.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of goofy, dorky guy. And he was on an infomercial. And he had a 15-foot cotton leash with a choke chain. And his whole system was based on turn, tug, and go, turn, tug, and go. And then he'd use a chain as a throw chain, which once you started to get off of the turn, tug, and go, if he wanted to catch a dog's attention, he'd throw a throw chain at its like butt as like the off leash turn tug. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I was like, oh my God, cotton leash, because cotton leash is pretty cool. It has give to it and stretch to it, right? At not even maybe 5/8 of an inch cotton 15-foot leash.
Yeah.
And so I started becoming this master of turn, tug, and go. Like that was actually how I trained for my first, 10 years of professional training was a choke chain. I was a Barbara Woodhouse fan too, the British gal with her choke chain and the turn, tug, and go. And if I had a pretty nasty, tough dog, big dog, really strong-willed dog, I would put a prong collar, but I would only use that for the tougher dogs. Well, then when I was introduced to the Wonder Lead, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll turn, tug, and go with the Wonder Lead. And so that's how I started my process with the turn, tug, and go with the Wonder Lead. And that's the system that I use with it. And why do I do that? Well, unfortunately, from training dogs for this many years, I have horrific tennis elbow. I've got a kind of a blown shoulder going on. And these dogs, when they want to pull you hard and you're doing this, upwards of 8 hours a day, and people are handing you German Shepherds and Newfoundlands and stuff like that can drag you to the ground. I grasp the leash hand over fist like this.
Yeah.
I then put it against my chest. I cup my shoulders in, and when I turn, tug, and go, I use my whole upper body to do it and not just my shoulder. So that's how I do the turn. I actually are able to throw my whole body into the turn, tug, and go. It's how I still start them on the Wonder Lead. But there's dogs that have such a ruined point of contact and such a tough neck. I'll overlay an e-collar into that with some specific dogs because they're professional pullers and they're so big and strong. And I'm talking huge, powerful dogs. Yeah. They need to get unwound of that. They need to learn a respect of a touch.
Right. And again, we're going to be redundant. So much just could be, it doesn't even have to be in the dog world if people would do some of this stuff early on with the dog.
Yeah.
You could take a dog that literally, you could probably take my daughter's Labrador who does not know heel. Mm-hmm. And it only stays here once in a while. So it'll live in the kennel for a day or two if they're gone somewhere. I can't hold that dog by the collar. I can get him to the door, and I'm a strong guy and I do jujitsu. I've got grips and arms. I can barely hold that dog to steer him by his collar, right? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine the dog that's pulling that hard. You'd have to if not tucked in like you were describing, you'd almost have to tie it to your hips. You know what I mean? Because it's just too hard
Oh,
on the body.
early in my career, I remember having dogs. So, and a lot of, I mean, they could have been 80-pound Labrador retrievers. I remember like wrapping the leash around my lower back and having it there so that I could use my whole body to pull because
Yeah.
the dogs would just
Yeah.
overpower you. Yeah. It's honestly one of the reasons I also can't stand flexi leads. And I have a story, I believe, in this book about flexi leads. It's a
Yeah.
pretty funny story. But the concept with a flexi lead is when your dog pulls, you push a button and they basically are winning and learning how to pull.
Right.
So it's funny how many people I see, whether they're show people or even I was just at the Retriever Nationals in Maine, and these incredible competitors are walking national caliber dogs with flexi leads and very successfully, right? But
Yeah.
for me, I don't want a dog to be educated that when they pull, they get even more leash. So when I walk any dog to air them, they're on a long line. They're on a check cord or they're on that 15-foot cotton leash. I keep them right in my trucks. So if
Yeah.
I want a dog to have 15 foot or 20 foot, but my rule is if you get to the end, guess what? I'm going to turn, tug, and go. Therefore, because of that, is if they just expect it that when they get to the end, you're going to leave their space and pull them right off their feet,
Mhm.
they then go, oh, I'm at the end, and they move into the pressure.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's all
So
it's all about pressure and release
it's
of pressure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it comes from me from a lot of horse training. I mean, I'm in my barn right now, and I've got a 1,200-pound and 1,000-pound horse. They have to respect pressure.
Right.
It's how I get them in the trailer. It's how I ride them. It's how I navigate. It's leg pressure. It's leg yielding. It's rope halter pressure, and it's them moving in with the pressure, not fighting the pressure.
Right. And then as soon as they get to where you showed them to go, which is in the trailer, they're like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad."
Yep, yep.
It
But I
it's
tell you
simple,
again,
but
look,
it's done so wrong
yeah,
with
I
so many
still talk
dogs.
about this a lot in the book. If you think that you can hold a horse like most people hold their dogs, which is really tight, white knuckled with a tight leash, you hold a flight animal, a horse like that, and they're just going to take off with you. So a
Yeah.
horse, you need a lot more savvy, and you need to really learn and navigate the timing of pressure release, because the pressure is the enforcer. This is the big thing. This is the release is on the reward. Well, my book talks about, it's not the pulling dog is usually because the owners are white knuckled and they never release pressure. Therefore, the dog has no way out. They pull, pull,
Right.
pull, pull.
And they just pull
The,
harder. Yeah.
the reward is on the release. And so with this quiet cue communication and the touch point of contact, pressure is the enforcer, the release is the reward, and they learn a single touch point of contact. Why I like the Wonder Lead so much as the tool is the rigidity of the leash. If you're pulling at 3 o'clock, the point of contact is across at 9 o'clock. So
Yeah.
unlike a prong collar and even a choke chain, that's sort of almost universally all around the neck. The Wonder Lead really has that touch point of contact on the opposite side.
Right.
So that becomes our overlay ultimately for the e-collar conditioning. It's pretty good because very seamlessly the Wonder Lead transition to the e-collar as a cue.
And I know that's not in the book, but I was gonna is right what I was gonna ask you. So once you get what you like on the leash, and I think you do mention this.
No, it's all I do a whole.
you
I
did.
start. Yeah,
I
e-collar
forgot.
conditioning's all in here. Yep,
It is. It is. I made a mistake. I was thinking faster than I was talking.
that's okay.
What I think I got from you and what I learned from other people is the collar is like to a dog, you learn it on the collar, you learn it from you can learn it from a whistle, you can learn it from an e-collar. It's like a dog learning 4 languages. None of them are any more severe to the dog. It's just like learning French, German, Spanish, and English.
Yeah,
And the only thing is the German's louder and you can reach them further. But it doesn't have to be. It's not a matter of cranking it up. That's not the idea.
Yeah.
I almost wish only because a couple friends of mine that I would like to take the collar and put it on their neck, and I'm sure you've met a few people like that. I wish they would just make I wish Garmin would come up for the newbies training collar and it only goes to 2.
Yeah.
You know, because I know maybe some dogs need more, but when I watched somebody that really knew how to collar condition, I didn't know how to, and I'm not a collar person like for training. I've never learned it well, but when I watched it, you mentioned about just that little blink of an eye, that little, you can get that sensitivity so light. The word E shouldn't be in there because it sounds like it's going to be shocked.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I talk about that because again I talk about going to the collar. It's not a shock collar. It's like the subcutaneous TENS unit, for our skin. It doesn't shock the body. It doesn't put an electric pulse through the body. It goes a single touch point of contact and it can flex the muscle. And with the goal with the quiet cue system, the goal with the leash training is to create a touch point of contact for a dog to follow lightness for 4 things. Walk with us, be still, go somewhere, come to us. Lots and lots of repetition.
Right.
In situational places. So it's very situational training. So even if I've got the obstacle in front of me, I'm going to either have you walk over it, go to it, be still on it, or come to me. The game for me becomes, how light can I cue them with the leash to get them to do it? And if you do any out of balance, if you do too much sending there, now they're going to want to be an honor student. They're going to want to go there. Well, now you get the point of contact to make them stop and be still. And how light can I possibly be with my leash? And I'm not even talking, I do not need to talk for this as I continue to transition even to the e-collar, because I get them so light that if I have a dog laying down on a Kuranda bed and they've got the Wonder Lead on and it's 6 foot long and it's down on the ground, I have to pick the end up gingerly, because if I even pick it up with any type of pressure, I effectively just cued them to get up.
To move, right.
So I pick the end up, and even though they know I have it, it's a cue to move. So the whole thing is about cueing them with a touch point of contact pressure. Well, that cue then becomes the overlay to the e-collar. And each dog, depending on their character, their breed, the thickness of their skin, their hide, their hair, where you have the collar on, the humidity, it can be like on a Garmin, they can feel a low 1, a medium 1, a high 1, maybe even they feel a low 2. But for the most part, they'll just feel that level 1. And how can you see that? You'll see them close their jaws for a minute, change their breath, blink their eyes, cock an ear, tilt a head. That's all I'm looking for, is like they felt a fly land on them and they were aware.
Right.
That now takes the place. Well, it's not that it supports what my leash was.
It gives them another language. Yeah.
Yeah. So it starts, I think, on page 57 of the book. I just had it open. It's taking the point of contact touch with the leash, transitioning to that lightest cue of the e-collar, and now it's muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory. We hit the e-collar 100 times throughout the day. It's so light, it's indistinguishable that you see it, but you're teaching the dogs that as the language, and you're doing it enough situationally, go, stop, come, be still, that becomes the language. Now, precursor to that, once we are teaching a task with the leash, it's light point of pressure, light point of contact, light point of contact. If a dog knows what you're asking to do because they've done it, and now you get to see a little bit defiance, a quit attitude, a leash jerk becomes the correction to do it now. Okay. We're not teaching with the jerk, but we're reinforcing something that they already know. Well, now you go ahead to the e-collar and I'm cueing light, cueing light, cueing light, cueing light, a whole bunch of it. When you feel that you're getting a non-effort, now you can go up for a moment to a higher level, which becomes like your leash jerk. It's an e-collar jerk. Now you go back down to light. Why does the light work? Because the higher level doesn't feel good.
Right.
But it's all about prepping them. It's like, I'm asking, do it now.
Right.
Now go back to light. The problem that a lot of people use the e-collars for is they assumed the dog heard and understood the command they just gave. Right? The dog was totally distracted, didn't hear you, wasn't paying attention. Now they crank the e-collar up to like a 5, and the dog like reacts with a fight,
Right.
freeze, or flight. That's not collar conditioning. That is not using the collar effectively. So we use the collar a whole lot as cues. And a higher level is meant to ask for increased effort, increased compulsion for a dog that is not listening to the lower levels. So that's the training methodology that we use, where honestly, probably 95 to 98% is used for cues. The 2 to 5% is a true correction. And a true correction is truly meant to stop a behavior. I say it's like the hand of God coming down to smack a dog for whatever behavior they're doing that you want them to stop it. It could be eating coyote poop. It could be rolling in goose poop. It could be putting their head in the cat litter box. It's correction. It's trash breaking behavior that you actually want them to be afraid of the cat litter box, and you want them to be afraid of it, whether it's in your presence or not. That is correction at high level as a surprise has no place in obedience training.
Right. No place in training. It's just there for the dog's safety. It really is.
Yeah.
We could go all on. I want to, I got to pick your brain a little bit more on this obstacle. I want you to send me a pic. I'm going to make a little, I found a couple things. I found some old planks up in the rafters in my barn. I want to start dabbling with this. I'm not going to run the dog through a hoop, and I'm not running anymore on my knees, but I would love to stimulate the dog's thinking and ability to go and come. And in your book, you talked about the go command, right? That's something I never realized. And I could picture it in my head that's how you get them to go. Like, I always let the dog, it's like, well, that was default. Dog knows go, but he wasn't going because I told him to go. He's going because he thinks he's going to go hunting. Right.
Sure.
And that's something I would love to get a better grasp on. So I want some pictures and a tutorial on this. Now,
I would love to share it. And one of my favorite ones, when we put up our big, it's 120 foot by 80 foot metal roofed covered arena. It's all open, but it's phenomenal. It has lights in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It came on pallets. And it came on pallets. This one pallet is like, it looks like a pallet, but it's 20 foot long. Right. And we just simply put it on ladders and we put steps. When we're doing all this kind of repetition, we're very careful with young dogs and joints of dogs. So we don't need to be doing repetitive jumping up and jumping down. But to have a dog even walk over a pallet or walk over some type of a ladder, it was funny when we had, we've been hosting a lot of clinics this year and in the future, and we had a search and rescue clinic, and these people came. They were super cool. They had like 12 Malinois in their van, and like Malinois, how agile they can be. Well, they set a ladder up, and I brought my lab did the ladder for first time ever, no problem. And I would have swore she would have had a hard time, but she's such a master of this, this challenge course with so many of the unstable. She just looked down, and it was like rungs of like a round ladder. It was very, very difficult. She flew right through it, no problem.
And so that's again, because of all the other exposure she's had to.
Yeah, and she's like, and that's the thing, is it so builds confidence. If you can get a piece of a telephone pole, to have a dog stand on a telephone pole with all 4 feet like in line,
right?
Not lengthwise, whatever you call. Like, I stand on the telephone pole with them so that it's underneath both my feet, and I have them heel. I have them sit or stand at heel on the telephone pole on my side.
Yeah, I need some pictures, and I need some help with that.
The funny thing is I know that they love it because I'll cue them to try, and they'll get up and they'll fall off. And before I even ask, they're trying on their own again. Yeah. And I think that's the coolest thing, and they're not doing it because they're being forced to. They're like, oh, I gotta get this right.
Right. I mean, I have in here, I have an 8 foot low, what we all call the NAVDA training table with 2 ramps. My dogs, once they've been here for a while, like if I walk past that table, they all jump on that table. because they've had good experiences up there, and they
Sure.
whether it's a treat or trained retrieve or whatever, or I groom them there, and I'm like, I know these dogs would be great for, but I've never expanded it, you know, and
Yep.
now
If
I'm intrigued
if
by
you have an area for it, if you can pick up a small metal John boat or even a canoe that somebody's like going to trash,
yeah,
take a canoe or a John boat and put it on a tire so that
okay,
it's totally unstable.
yeah,
One is it helps them with boating training, but just that act of having to go into an unstable boat, it can blow them away. And it's just helping with trust exercises. It's helping them go onto a surface or a platform that is unstable, and they
right,
might jump out and they jump back in again. It then makes kayak or boating training a non-issue later because they're
yeah,
like, I got this. Yeah.
yeah. And this may be not the right question, but how young of a dog would you let start? And of course, not the high ladders and everything, but where do you introduce little steps and little obstacles, for lack of a better word, to
Eight,
what age?
7, 8 weeks old.
So they're even whatever it is, whatever they can
Yep.
handle, you let them.
Again, we just had Dr. Janelle Appel, sports vet. I was at the Nationals with her and in Maine with the Retrievers, and she's been on campus at QK. She just left yesterday. Not advocates of having any type of dog repetitively jump up or jump down on things, especially as their growth plates are forming and developing.
Right.
But puppies certainly climbing low stairs, puppies stepping on a coranda bed, puppies stepping on a Cato board.
Yeah.
Cato board. Jordan Horak even has the Cato board that's a mini seesaw. I mean,
Yeah.
that's worth the investment. It's a mini seesaw, and you can make that low for puppies. But anything where you can have them do a little step up and go on. We have a little balance beam, and it's at most like 5 inches off the ground.
Right.
So
they're not going to get hurt, but
they're not going to get hurt, and they're not going to really hurt their joints or anything like that. Yeah. But I'll even have little puppies do the dog walk, and I'll even have little puppies go over the seesaw, but I am right there, like hands under the bed. They are not going to fall off, but I love them feeling unstable surfaces underneath them so that they navigate that. Walking over the pallets are fantastic for them.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like a cattle grate, out west, a dog learning to navigate that. I know a fella or a couple that I know in Wisconsin, they use a pallet for stacking their dogs.
Sure, that's
The
cool.
dog moves, the foot goes through the slot, right? And
Yeah.
it kind of keeps, and the foot only goes down 4 inches,
Yeah.
but it gets that dog and the pallets have so many slats on it, you can try to use a small dog, medium dog, large dog. And if they shuffle their feet around, all of a sudden their foot falls through and it kind of tips them. And that goes back to, that calming that don't move.
We even went to a junkyard and bought a pickup truck bed, and we have a pickup because the amount of people that came, like my dog can't even get in and out of my car, but we have a ramp going up to it because dogs, we want them to learn how to use the ramp. I'd love, there's about 30 obstacles, and I'd love to share with you and even the listeners because they're fun to build. Some of them are easy. Some of them take a lot of thought. We could maybe even come up with more and share more, but it just makes for a great. I'm like, if we're bored, the dog's probably more bored. So let's come up with things to stay engaged.
My last question on this, because it's bugging me so much. Will your other dogs be able to see the other dogs out in that exercise yard or that obstacle, or will your dogs be able to watch the other dogs, or is this an area where it's just you and the dog learning that course?
So our 120-foot by 80-foot arena is fenced in with box wire. It has all of the obstacles, and it has patience lines around inside the entire edge. So
like a chain gang. So right, that's all patience. Okay.
All of the dogs throughout their training day are there as we're doing it, as we're training them all day long. We go out to the field, we come into the arena, we do social groups in there, we let them loose in there. But they all watch each other.
Okay.
And I don't think a dog is going to learn how to do a seesaw by watching another dog.
No,
by
but
any means.
Wants to get off and do something with you, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also provides you the opportunity, like, because we have the patience lines out there, is we'll take a dog off and maybe do one time all around the course, put them up, take the next dog. It's not like they're right there. So you can also take them, try the boat, and the boat might turn into a 10-minute exercise. And when you see the dog like accomplishes it, but is satiated and a little spent, you put them back on the line. You don't need to do any more. It works out really well.
Yeah, I was just curious how that would look. Well, Jennifer, I can't tell you. Well, I did say something I was going to bring up. I'm looking forward to the video you do with this because
Oh,
I think I know enough about what I've done in dog training and observing dogs. Some pictures and some pictures would have been great
I know.
because a picture's worth 1,000 words. But you told me you're going to have video to accompany this, which is going to be, I think that's going to be, I mean, probably difficult to do, but when are we looking forward to the video?
So it's funny, yes, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is my first book I ever wrote, these books, and it costs a lot of money to write a book.
Yeah,
I worked with a publisher, and I purchased all these books. You can buy the Mastering Canine Communication on Amazon, but or you could buy it directly from me because I ordered from a printer all these copies. And I love to hand sign them for people. I'm honored to do that, and I'll mail them right to you. And certainly I can make the money back on the book versus Amazon. It's a little different.
Yeah.
But what were we getting?
Well, we're talking about pictures and
sorry, thank you. Sorry.
So it can't really be explained with a picture.
Not only that, it was going to take so much more time to get the picture, whatever, and it adds so much to the printing costs. And I'm like, this is a methodology for me to share something with people, and it's going to support the video series. So I just signed on today for the contract for the video. We're filming in early September, and it's going to be a step-by-step video series to support the book. And that's, again, why I wrote the book, because my whole initially is I was going to do a video series, and the team was like, write a book first.
They know what they're doing,
Yeah.
Well, like any good book, we wait for the movie to come out, right?
Wait for the movie. Yeah, these guys, they're cinematographers. I'm excited about it.
The movie will be as good as the book because sometimes the movies aren't as good as the book, But that's a movie, not a training.
Fun stuff.
It is. Let's stay in touch. Let me know when that's coming out. If you've got, I know this is only hard. I only do a Zoom room once a month. And I'll just stay in touch with you with text. I would love you to come on one of my Zoom rooms for my patrons, because I would say they're like my Uber listeners. They give a few bucks a month. They get some discounts, but we literally sit down. We're on, I could take up to 100 people, but we usually have under 50. I'd love to bring you on just to reintroduce this to them. And
I would love to. I'd be honored to.
General drink, you're going to get a lot of, my dog only brings the bird halfway back questions, but as a trainer, you said it earlier, you're going to do the same thing every day, and the patience to do that is probably built into the patience to be a dog trainer.
Yeah. And I love helping people, and, trained dogs live better lives, and I'm all about the dogs. So whatever I can do to help the people and help the dogs. So,
well, how do they get this? How do they get the book?
They can go to our Quinnebog Kennel website, QK Dogs, and if you go to the store, and I'd be honored to sign it for anybody. There's the paperback I think is $14.99 or $15, and hardcover I think is $25. It's only 99 pages. Even Ron Boehm can read it, which is
cool. Yep.
And it's got German short hairs. Did you like the short hairs on point? To point things. Yeah. And it is an easy read. It's fairly technical, but love to share it.
The cover, it kind of belongs on the cover of like an outdoor magazine. I don't know whose dog it is and who it is in the picture.
Yep.
And I'm describing this. I can't put it. Well, I mean, I could put it up there, and if somebody watches this on YouTube, but it's a completely blacked out dog. There's no sunlight, and you can't see the dog's eyes. You can't tell what color the dog is. I couldn't tell you other than this person has a ponytail, it's either a thin man or a woman, right?
Yeah, woman. Yeah,
Picture kind of says the title.
yeah.
It's the
It
thing.
emits an emotion, doesn't it?
Yeah, the dog is looking at the owner. The owner's hand is up. It's the perfect picture for the title of the book.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, so all they got to do is go to QK Kennels because nobody can spell
QK dog, QKdogs.com.
QK Dogs.
Dot
You know
com.
it's the hardest kennel name to remember in this
I know. That's why we reworded it to QK. Yeah.
Quinnabog, but
Quinnabog.
Quinnabog. So it's QK.
QK dogs.
QK Dogs. That's all they got to remember.
Yep.
All right. Go to QK Dogs. You can get the book. Jennifer will sign it for you. I have a nice little intro from Jennifer, and she even said, looking forward to some more hunts and fun times. Well, I hope so.
I hope so. Have
Um,
you been walking? I mean, are you going to meet us in UP this year?
I don't know. I don't know when you're going to be there.
Well, I'm doing a fun horseback hunt in September on the prairies. Um,
I'm sorry for your suffering.
I know, and that's in the end of September, and then I'm gonna fly home because I'm flying out for that, and then I think I'm gonna head out to North Dakota around October 2nd. Our hunt is planned the 4th through the 11th. Then the Michigan hunt is the 13th, I think, through the 18th. So
That falls in line about like last year. Yeah, because you go on that long, giant journey and sleep in the back of your truck and
I do. I know.
live like an urchin with charcuterie boards at night. You sleep like a homeless person on the road, but you banquet dinners.
I always sleep in the back of my truck when I'm trying to get to my destination, and I'll be like I only need about 4 hours of sleep. If I'm like driving to North Dakota, like I'll drive till 2 a.m. I'll crawl in the back of the truck. I'll sleep till 6, then I'll get back on the road because I want to get there. I mean, once I'm there, I want posh. I want to be in a nice Airbnb or whatever. And the place this year that the hot tub's going to be in the Michigan one, so that'll be really nice.
I'll
And
show up for that.
yeah, but I'm not gonna get a hotel room and leave like my guns and my dogs and everything in the truck to stay in some dive for 4 hours, And then my other thing is if the hotel's too nice, I'm gonna just want to sleep.
Right.
I want to get there. I'm on a mission. Yeah,
You keep me
sleeping
up
in the back seat of a Denali is not that bad.
I disagree. I disagree. Well, keep me up on your schedule. Keep me up on film release for the video series with this, and
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple Zoom room dates if you can make one of them. I know
Love
my
to.
patrons would love to.
I'd love to. It'll be a hoot.
All right. I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you soon. I love you.
Love you too, man. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Appreciate it.
So I closed up with Jennifer there, and for my patrons, Jennifer has agreed if we can find a date that works, we might move our Zoom room. But in the next month or so, I'm going to have Jennifer come on with my Patreons, and they can ask her all the questions in the world about her training. She's a really good trainer. She's been to all the versatile dog tests. She does a lot of Labrador work, of course, but you will enjoy that. So if you're a patron, look forward to that invite. And we want to thank On X, Gunner, Kennels, W Supply, Garmin, Canine Athlete, Mossberg, Boss Shot Shells, Purina Pro Plan. Wow, I'm running out of wind. Walton's, Marshwear, Four Wheel Camper, Patreon. That's you, my Patreon listeners. And Arxis USA, the best rubber boot you're going to get in this country. Love you guys. Love you girls. Love you girls more.